Pro.Gnosis, a podcast with J.M. and Armon Ree.
Welcome everyone. Today is really a key turning point episode. This is episode 13 and it marks the return of JM. As you well remember, he was present for the first two episodes, then took a break and things, life has to take, precedence over some things. And now he's back, and he's back in full throttle. He even started posting very, very important videos, in my opinion, with bringing to the fore matters that need to be addressed and need to be reevaluated within ourselves, that, look at reality with different eyes. So it is really, I cannot express enough, the pleasure of having him return and also to discuss, especially, of course, the topics that he brought to the fore. So, hey, JM, man, bro, welcome back.
Yeah, no, of course. I think for me, the last 12 months have been poignant in the sense that, there were a lot of personal changes which were long overdue perhaps and of course necessary. But it's led me to a place where I feel as though now I've been able to comfortably contemplate more in depth my own journey, as well as where perhaps the next steps lie. And I think if, like others have expressed and experienced, I have this thing called the winter abyss every year, where as soon as the time changes and it gets darker earlier and colder, it seems to bring about, I wouldn't say a depression, but it brings a certain level of personal awareness, and sometimes the more difficult stuff, of course, where I have to sit with and try and unravel a little bit and get to the bottom of. And it's like clockwork, but the lead up to this past winter for me was one where I was feeling this inner torment, where I knew something was trying to come through, and in typical JM fashion, I begrudgingly at times avoided it. And what's come through since over the last few months, for example, has given me, I believe, the correct platform now to move forward and chat more with you and others about what I've seen, what I experience, and what I believe could be moving ahead, the direction we need to go in to discover what it is we're ultimately set on this path for, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, regarding the winter abyss, like you say, I mean, you're a summer child, right? So that's absolutely normal for you. And I mean, when we had that time, that opportunity to hang out, I mean, it was during the summer, and it was really a marvelous time we had together, and with you and your family, and how we clicked all together so nicely. It was really a magical time.
Well, for me, it was like we've known each other for years now, and we've been talking about finally connecting in some way. And of course, I don't know if anyone listening knows, you actually surprised me. It was a surprise visit, and you collaborated with my lady beautifully, and it was one of those. It was one of those oh shit moments, It was 10:30 in the evening. I'm in my underwear, and I hear a knock at the door. I'm getting ready for bed, and then all of a sudden I open the door, and the only thing I hear in the dark is, "Truth speaks no words." And it was phenomenal, and it was one of those life moments that probably surprised me and took me off guard more than anything else. But yeah, like you stated, we spent a warm week together, and you got to see finally in person my great home environment, and I hope
Yeah.
it was incredibly comfortable for you. But I think what it reinforced for me is that these voices on the internet are real at times, and
Yeah.
um,
Hmm.
adding a personal element to the screen is especially with people like yourself, it just reinforces the bond that we've created, and going forward, I think is gonna blossom into something more that perhaps others can gain more from. We
Yeah.
hope,
Hmm.
and then from there, we'll see what comes. But yeah, man, it was a wonderful week, and I'm now trying to fill my piggy bank up, so to speak, to get over to Portugal and return the same sentiment.
Anytime, man.
Yeah, man.
And the growing of those bonds, let's say the nurturing of those bonds, is a very important part, I think, that relates very nicely to your more recent messages, the recent videos you've put out, because we grow accustomed. We in general, not me and you particularly, but we grow accustomed to, like you say, voices on the internet and certain certain messages, certain things that sort of become um, a voice in our minds more than an actual communication going on, right?
Sure.
And you've pointed out the danger, or whatever you want to call it, of treating those communications, those voices, as if they sort of represent the entire reality. And we stop evaluating, right? We stop really prioritizing that which is organic, that which we truly want, right?
Yeah.
And go for the secondary entertainment of sorts, right?
Yeah.
So do you want to expand more upon that, relating to your first video?
Yeah, well, I think the important thing here, and everyone here is wise enough to realize, is we're incredibly separated, and we have to do the best that we can. So, even though it sounds like I'm being critical of things like a Discord or chat rooms and such, I did state they do have value, and if it weren't for things like that, those initial connections likely wouldn't or couldn't be made. And so, again, as I mentioned in the video, um, these things can take us to certain places. They can bring us to certain bits of awareness. But I think it's when you can somehow add a more personal touch to some of these connections, it brings about more of that authenticity
Yeah.
you've spoken of so many times, and a trust is built. You know what I mean? And I think there has been far too much shown now that it's becoming increasingly more difficult to trust what's being put out there and what we're consuming. And if only we knew this 10, 15 years ago, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But we spoke the other day about how much energy or time perhaps we've wasted just kind of chasing certain things that made us feel as though our point or our point of view was being reinforced in some way. And again, that builds and pads that comfort or that comfortability that exists that we all do seek at times, whether we want to admit it or not. And I can only say that my life, I've spent a lot of time in leadership positions. Nothing corporate, of course. It's been more boots on the ground, hands-on, as you know, with
Mm-hmm.
teaching or coaching or creating in some way. And the one thing that you see is that people are very, very, very vulnerable in group settings and want to fit in and feel comfortable as quickly as possible. And in time, some people are shown that, hey, maybe that wasn't in my best interest, or maybe that wasn't exactly what I thought it was, or thought it to be at the time.
Right.
And as I continue exploring, moving forward, I'm seeing the same thing happening to people who I believe are a part of what could be the tip of the sword in terms of this pursuit of knowledge or truth.
Yeah.
And so with that, we have to use your famous word called filters, and
Yeah.
it's so important to understand what that means, and that is, it's okay to share viewpoints, and it's okay to watch, follow, listen, however you want to call it, but you also have to take what's best for you or what's most important for you, and be honest with yourself about those things that perhaps don't align or intuitively feel as though are going to lead you in a better direction in terms of self-awareness and realization. Know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the filter is also to be used retroactively, in the sense of, reevaluating the things we thought were already established, right? And so that is something that has to be done constantly, as well as for anything new or apparently new that comes about. And the strengthening of bonds at a personal level, that helps with the trust, like you've mentioned quite correctly. Takes things to it removes that groupal kind of sort of cultish kind of tendency, right? And it establishes a respect and a mutual admiration, that brings the ideas being discussed to a completely different level, right?
Yeah, there's no question. I've had the thought recently that I believe, just upon observation and contemplation, that some of the best relationships are ones that evolve together over
Right.
time, and we've had the pleasure of that. And while I wholeheartedly admit, when we first connected years ago, you had the ability to see what I could not see personally, and that was a huge springboard for me to move forward and see some things and recognize some things about myself and about perhaps the reality that I just had blinders on for. And so once I was able to see it and admit it to myself, that relationship grew more simultaneously, if that makes sense. And we were able to share more information together that I was able to discern more effectively. And then at the same time, you add on the personal element, and it built that trust. And for me at the time, it helped me tremendously because, again, we've seen so many examples of things you cannot trust. And so your genuine approach to helping me or others, or however you want to call it,
Yeah.
it gave me confidence. It gave me a lot more confidence to pursue those things that I was denying and was afraid to say. And this is a big point. I was afraid for years to say I don't know or I was wrong. And what that does, especially when you're in that cultish kind of environment, where whatever that might be, it removes objectivity, and it creates perhaps an egregore of belief within a mindset or a system of beliefs
Yeah.
that again can be crippling, as we've seen and we've experienced.
Yeah.
And so, in the last several months, especially, it has been a look in the mirror type of thing where you say to yourself, "Am I confident enough to say that I don't know?" And when you look at the aspects of what was holding you back from admitting that, it was perhaps, as we both have discussed for years, a combination of some pride and some shame.
Yeah.
Where I was too consumed with the validation of others based on, in the sense that, for example, I wanted what I thought as truth to be known and shared, and I wanted to be comfortable in that, where, again, I was validated in some way.